Hi everyone, it's Connor from the Cloud 365 team. Welcome to this live stream. So for those who are watching this on our social media platforms, just bear in mind that we are also sharing this on the Academy as well. If you haven't heard about the Academy, now's a great time to head over and see what there is and what we have to offer. So if you don't have access to the Academy, you can do so by going over to 365.io/academy. And you can purchase the $7 bundle, which not only gets you access to the Academy, but it also gives you 300 sessions from our previous conferences to dig your teeth into, which is really good value as well there. So before we get into this live session, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. So my name's Connor, and I am a support coach and Power Platform developer at Cloud 365. I have been now for about just over 2 years now, I think it's been. In April, which is quite exciting for me. But yeah, I'm going to be presenting this session, and it's going to be basically going over some tips and tricks on user interface and user experience in the Power Platform. So I'm just going to bring up my presentation. There's not much here to really go over at the moment, but we'll be diving into Power Apps and some Power Apps goodness in just a second. So for those that have used Power Apps, you'll know that you can create Power Apps from data in Power Apps, and that can be from SharePoint. You can create Power Apps directly from SharePoint and using your data in Dataverse and all of the other third-party connectors. But it's often overlooked as to what you can actually build in Power Apps in terms of the user interface and user experience that you offer. So you'll kind of know that you can see the default designs in Power Apps, which is that kind of that blue look that you get with those default icons. And I'm just going to be going over some tips and tricks on how to make that better and how to allow your users to be able to adopt that in a nicer way. Because when they see apps that they can actually interact with and they can see how the app's behaving, they're more likely to use those apps. So I'm going to be going over 3 apps that I've built personally, along with John Mandeville, who's also in the chat as well today. And that's going to be our internal vacation booking app. So this is an app that I built using Power Apps, Power Automate, and SharePoint. So entirely Power Platform pretty much based. And it basically allows people to book holiday within their organization. And I'm going to show you how I kind of went about customizing the user interface here to kind of give it a little bit more of a nicer way to have your users interact with your app. So the second app that we're going to be going over is going to be the Daily Digest Manager app. Now, for those that have been following Cloud 365 for some time, you'll know that we run the Daily Digest, which is a daily newsletter that you'll receive to your email, full of awesome articles, which I spend most mornings sifting through articles and posting them into the Daily Digest. Now this kind of was a process that we were doing manually for quite some time, and in the end I realized that I could make this more efficient, and I decided to build a Power App, a Power Platform solution based around this. Now it does use a lot of the other services as well, Power Automate and Power Automate Desktop, to aggregate those lists of articles. But it's primarily the Power App which allows me to manage that every morning. So we'll be going into that a little bit more. And finally is the Social Slammer app, which is an app which allows us to manage our social platforms, posting images, videos, and text, if you like, to all of the social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the lot. But we're going to go into how I, not specifically how they were built, but how I approached some of the user interface elements within those to basically improve the look and feel. So I'm going to head over into Power Apps, and I've got 3 of them opened up here. So we'll start with the holiday booking app. So you can see this looks quite different to what you would expect out of the box from Power Apps, and I've kind of gone for the approach of building this from the ground up rather than building this from data. Now you could build this from data and have that kind of default look and then go and start implementing how you want it to look and the design of it there. But I thought for the purpose of what I wanted to achieve, I would actually build this from scratch. So I'd be building the header myself, importing the galleries and everything myself. But we're not going to get into how it was built too much. So there's a few things which I usually think about when building a application from the start, and that is the kind of what you want your users to experience when they're working with your app, when they're using your app. And for me, the main kind of point there is being able to show them firsthand exactly where they are in the app and what they're going to be actually using and clicking, and giving that user feedback to the user. Now, it's very easy to go ahead and import icons. You can see I've got a bunch of icons in here as well, which are doing various things. And it's very easy to just go and create icons and use, as you can see it's up the top here, we've got this navigation function. And obviously that's going to allow you to navigate between screens. It's going to allow you to perform actions based on when the icon was selected. Now, the first thing that I did here was I like to change the color of the icons. And this is just to indicate whether something is selected or not. So as you can see here, that I've got these like grayed out icons here, and I'm using the same for the text as well. So the first thing that I did here was I made sure that whatever was selected was going to be this kind of blue. Now it's an on-brand blue color, and we'll get into theming and everything a little bit later. But the main purpose of the icon is obviously to navigate. So I decided I wanted to highlight things that were going to be selected with a different color. Now, the way I've organized this here is I've put the whole bottom bar here, this whole navigation bar at the bottom, into a group. And this allows you to just go ahead and hide this or make it visible based on certain interactions with the app. So if I just find out exactly where I went with this. So this was a simple implementation where I changed the settings of this on a screen. So I'm just duplicating this group across all of my screens. So if I go to, for example, my booking screen here, you can see that it's the same bar at the bottom, and inside you'll see the same group that we had. So we've got group 2_1, which is basically a duplicate copy of the group on this first one. And all I did here was basically just change the color of the icon, and that just allows your user to see exactly where they are on the screen. And I did this for all of the various different screens. So if we go to my booking app, you can see that the book text here is also highlighted with that kind of color change, and the same for the team holiday screen as well. So another thing I did just to kind of bring out that vibrance when you click on it is to add an underline. Now you could do this in multiple ways. You could add a background to the icon. You could add like a rectangle behind it, just to kind of show that that is selected. Just bear with me a second. Is my audio coming out? Coming out okay. Awesome stuff. Cool. So yeah, as I was saying, so we've got icons, and another thing that's important with icons is to use what I call like a global standard for icons. Now we use apps daily on our mobile phones, tablets, even on our computers as well. We use applications daily, so we're kind of all familiar with what icons should look like and what they do. Now, for example, a common one that I see crop up a lot is this hamburger menu at the top here, and the difference between a hamburger and a waffle menu. Now, a lot of people will either use a hamburger menu for the wrong thing, a different type of menu that will appear. So I prefer to use a hamburger menu for a menu which is going to give you a list or something that pulls out from the side or from the top. And a waffle menu is more of a kind of categorized look at some of the different navigational places that you can visit. Now in this app, I'm using a hamburger menu because all this is really doing is bringing out a list of options which the user can change as and when they choose to do so. Now the other thing I could do here, if I actually go and click on this hamburger icon, is it actually brings out this menu, and this is what's my settings menu. Now there's not much here, but the point of it is that it's not going to bring up a categorized list of navigational places. They're not going to be able to go anywhere from this menu. And that's why I chose to use a hamburger menu. Now I could have alternatively used a settings cog. Now settings cog is obviously going to direct you to a settings menu, which is what this menu is that pops up here, and I'll go into how I kind of did that in just a second. But yeah, we'll stick with the hamburger menu. It's a good choice for this type of thing. So another thing that you want to consider when using icons in your app, especially when they are opening and closing, whether it's going to be a screen or a separate menu, is to have the ability to then close it. So by default, if I was to open up this hamburger menu, the kind of common thing you'd see is there would be a hamburger menu in the top right. Now that kind of suggests that you're going to open something new. So you kind of want to replace icons in exactly the same place as where you open them. So if you are enabling something, you want to disable it in the same place, and it just stops your users from kind of having to search for that kind of close menu, if you like. Now perhaps doesn't offer the features that most kind of native mobile apps would be, and that's the kind of ability to kind of click off of the menu, kind of off to the side for it to close. So you are kind of restricted in that way to open and close things based on interaction with icons and elements in your Power Apps controls. So again, you can see that we've got this little bin here, and that kind of, again, tells you exactly what that icon is doing. So we know that that's going to delete the holiday. Now I'm not going to go and delete Fraser's holiday, as I don't think he'll be too impressed. But again, that would just remove it from the list. If I go over to the book screen, so the reason I've made this book button the kind of big primary button in the center is because that's the fundamental part of this app. The whole point of a user coming to this app is the ability to go ahead and book holiday. So the things that you want your users to interact with the most, you need to make them stand out. For instance, if you was making a app that would, I don't know, say for example, publish a post to Teams, for example, you'd want to make that area where they know where to post, the one that stands out the most. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a ginormous icon in the center. It could be an icon at the top. As long as that kind of, it points to that location, that's what you want that user to do. So for instance, this is a book app. Now you can see that, a vacation booking app. Now you can see that I've got this plus icon here, which says to me as a user that I want to add a booking for some holiday. So any other icon here probably wouldn't have made sense in that such. So if I go ahead and press on the plus icon, you can see that the icon has changed to this kind of flat line. Now this is kind of an idea of bad design, because there's some ideas that I could have done here which would have made this a lot more simpler. For example, at the bottom of this form, which is where the user is going to be able to book holiday, you can see the submit button, and it's a kind of common practice to add a submit button because you want to submit a form. It's the only logical place that you would put this. However, I could have turned this button at the bottom here, this icon, into a functional button and remove this submit button altogether. And then that would allow me to bring this form further down and kind of avoid the confusion, because to me, as a user, this navigational button at the bottom here kind of looks like I should be able to press it, whereas I'm already here, so nothing's going to happen. So a little change that I could make would be to come into this icon, and I can go over to the right hand side, and I could change the icon to something else. So you can see here I've got this this icon horizontal line. Now instead I could add I think it's a tick or a check. And then that would change this to a check button. Now there's a bit of conditional formula going on here, which is basically just saying that if the form is visible, then change the icon based on the output of that. But what's really cool is I can actually change this and make this a lot nicer to the end user. So this icon here, I can actually go and find the onSelect property. And you can see that I've got this navigate to booking screen, which is set by the default for the group when I brought this over. Now, because this is on a specific screen, I could actually remove this navigate because they're already here. They're not going to want to navigate to this screen again. And I can actually make this navigate button, whilst I'm on this screen, actually go ahead and submit my form. So I can go ahead and do submit form, and I can find the name of my form, which it's been a while since I used this. It's actually called booking form. And I can just go and put that in there, which means that I could actually remove this submit button. So there's a bit of other conditional stuff going on in here, which I'm not going to implement right now, as that would take too long. But the idea is that you would actually be able to go ahead, grab that submit button and delete it, which means I could then select the form itself, if I can find the form, and I could increase the kind of length that this form would be. And it kind of takes up more of the real estate in your Power App. So again, it avoids that confusion. So they'd be able to then go ahead and select which holiday they want to book, and then go ahead and submit using that button. So I'm just going to move that back because I just wanted to show you some previous things that I had in place. So I think it was my, if I can find it, my data card here. I'm just going to make that visible again. So when a user submits a form, the common out-of-the-box thing that happens is, well, nothing. So that when you're submitting a form, you're actually going ahead and you're changing the data in wherever that form is being submitted to, whether you're updating an entry in a SharePoint list, in an Excel document, within Dataverse. You're actually going ahead and changing or implementing a new row as such in those data sources. Now, out of the box, when you do that, the users aren't really going to know what's going on unless you supply them with some form of user feedback. Now, it's really important that you do give them user feedback because it kind of also gives that idea that the app is actually working. There can be a lot of confusion as to if they submit a form, whether it's actually going to be submitted, whether it's worked. So one thing that I included here was what's called a success screen. Now, this is just using a out-of-the-box success screen that comes with Power Apps, and you can do this by going to new screen up the top left here, and you can press success, and then you can basically select this this screen to be the navigation, if you like, for that form when the form has been submitted successfully. And one thing I just noticed is there's a little bit of a change in the Power Apps UI, which looks quite nice. I quite like this. And basically all this is going to do is it's going to tell the user that we've successfully booked some holiday. Now there's more things that you can do here, and I have done in previous apps, and that's including what's called a loading animation or a loading spinner, which you've probably seen in apps as well. So this screen basically holds for a few seconds, and then it returns them back to the kind of home screen for booking a holiday. Now, one thing that you'll see is you get this default icon, which is a icon within a circle. Just going to undo that. But one thing you can do is you can also import GIFs into your Power Apps. And a really good place where you can find high quality GIFs or even create your own is a site called loading.io. Now this is a library of animated GIFs for different kind of loading styles, which you can create using a bunch of templates, and it is free to use as well. But what you can do is you can actually go to the spinner gallery up at the top here, and you can see all of these different loading animations. You can see that there are some that are payware, but there are some free ones as well. And you can basically go ahead and download these as GIFs by creating an account, which I won't do, as it's a little bit unnecessary at the moment. But yeah, what you can do is once you've downloaded that GIF, you can then come over to your media panel on the left-hand side, and you can upload your GIF, and you can bring that into your canvas as you like. It's just a really cool little thing that you can do just to give a little bit of interactivity and kind of eye-pleasing stuff to your Power App. Okay, just bear with me 2 seconds. So there is another thing that we're going to talk about, and that's going to be themes. So as you know, out of the box, there are themes in Power Apps, and you can see these themes up under the Themes tab, underneath the Home tab, sorry, the Themes drop-down menu underneath the Home tab, and you can select some of the default themes. Now, let's be honest, they're not the most eye-catching themes there is, so why not create our own? Now, there's multiple ways of doing this. Now, I usually try and go for the most simple option. It just saves time in the long run. And that's one thing to consider is when you're building your app for the first time, is build it with your user interface and your theme and your styling in mind. Now, you'll kind of often go and start grabbing, if I just go and open up a blank canvas app here, you'll probably go and start grabbing maybe rectangles, to maybe build a header, for example, and maybe you want a header and a footer. And the first thing you'll probably do is you've got this header and footer, and you'll go, right, okay, I want to change the color of my header, and I want it to be this green, and I want to change the footer to be a blue color here. And then what will happen is you'll go ahead and you'll create a new screen, and you'll want to bring those across. So you'll copy these, and you'll paste them across here, and then you'll go, oh, actually, I've decided I want to change this color, so I want it to be an orange. But you'll see that going from screen 1 to screen 2, that those changes don't get carried across. So one thing to consider when you're building an app for the first time, it is a bit of a painstaking process if you are going to go back to your app to implement this on a final app. So it's always good to consider this early on in your build. But one thing that you can do is you can create what's called variables, and this is more of an advanced technique to doing this, but it's very useful in terms of how it works. So I'll show you how it works going back to this app here. So you've seen this Hamburger Menu, which I brought down before, and you can see that we've got this color scheme toggle switch on the left. Now I've done this between two colors, and you could implement a color picker here, but the idea of this is it changes the entire color scheme of the app just based on a toggle. So if I switch this from blue to red, you can see that all of the red shades, all of the blue shades that have now changed to this red shades, and that kind of is implemented across the entire app. As you can see, we've got these kind of these primary and secondary colors, which are basically this nice red that we're seeing. And the reason I did this, and I'll show you going back to our new Canvas app, is using variables. So what I will do, or tend to do, is go to the app on start. And for those that don't know, this is the area of your Power App which gets, it's the formula that gets run whenever your app starts. And you can do what's called set, and this allows you to create a variable. And you can give it a variable name, so I'm just going to call this var primary color. And you can give it a value. So I could say, for example, that I want to go let's go with green. So I've created my variable, which gets run when the app starts. And I'm just going to select the ellipsis here and select run on start. And you're going to see it's not going to do anything at the moment because we've not implemented that variable anywhere else. However, that var primary color should now be accessible throughout the rest of our app. So I'm going to go back to screen 1 and I'm going to select this, excuse me, I'm going to select this top color here, this top header, and I'm going to go and find the color of this rectangle. So we can do this by going to the drop down and finding the fill. And you can see it's got this RGBA value, which is the red, green, blue, and alpha. I'm not going to go too much into what that is at the moment. But basically, we can change this now to be our var primary color. And you can see that that now changes to this green. So you can do this across multiple screens as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. I'm going to select from my kind of template here, which is going to be my screen 1. I'm going to select both my header and footer, and I'm going to copy this across. And this just means that whenever we change the value of that variable, so that var primary green that we have in that fill, that var primary color that we have, whenever we change the actual value of that variable, it's going to change throughout all of our screens. So I can go back to the the app on start, and I could change this, the color to a red. Now you can use hex values in here by using, I can't remember what the name of the formula is now. I'll just find that for you. I think it's a fairly new thing that's been implemented. I think it's on the app on start here. So yeah, you can use a color value with an open close brackets with the quotation marks followed by a hex value. And that means you can get one of, I think it's 255 trillion colors. Anyone that's been familiar with any sort of design, graphics design, in any Adobe suite or anything, even in like PowerPoint, you can do this as well. You'll be familiar with those kind of hash hex values that you'll see, which you can choose. But just for the purpose of this, we'll just stick with using the kind of predefined variables that are set by Power Apps. So you can see that we've got this red. Now, as you can see, the header has actually turned black. And that's because we've changed the value. So if we do run on start, we can see now that that's changed to red. And this is going to echo across both of our screens. So you're probably thinking, what about if I wanted to have multiple colors? So there's numerous ways of doing this. You could set up multiple variables in your on start. You could set up a secondary color. So I can just rename another variable here called var secondary color. And I could change this to orange. I'm just actually going to put a semicolon on the ender. So I could change this to orange. Again, I'm just going to run on start. And then I could change the this secondary, this footer here. I could change this to the var secondary color. And again, if I just do the same for this because I've already copied it across. So that's another way that you can create, that's the first way, sorry, that you can create a secondary color in your Power App by using multiple variables. Now, one thing that I like to do, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to want to give the users a kind of theme to go off. Now, the easiest way to do this would be implementing a single or secondary color and then using what's called a color fade to kind of echo that theme through kind of different layers of that color. And it's kind of similar to what I did in the vacation booking app. So you can see that we've got this blue, which is our Cloud 365 blue. And then we've got this kind of lighter shade of it, which is essentially the same blue, but with a slightly less alpha value. Now that alpha value is basically how transparent that color is going to be. So the more transparent we make it, the more the white background comes through behind it. So I'll show you how you can do that. So we've already implemented our secondary color. Now what you could do here is you could actually type in the var, actually use the correct one, you could do var primary color. And what this will do is it will just create exactly the same red, because you're grabbing the red from that primary color, that first variable, and you're using it as the value for your secondary variable. But what's really cool here is you can do what's called a color fade, and you can give it the color you want to fade. So I'm going to use that red, and then you can give it a percentage. So I could select something like 20, and that should, if I can see, I'm not sure if that needs to be in a, let me just check that. So it's actually got to be 20%. So yeah, you could use 20 and then percent. It has to have a percentage on the end of it. And I just realised I haven't closed off my my secondary brackets there. You can't really tell very much on the stream, but I could go more extreme to something like 70% maybe. And you can see now that is a different shade of the initial red that I have from that primary color. Now the way I implemented this inside of my vacation booking app is I predefined everything as I was building it. So every icon that I put in, every shape that I used, I would give it the color based on those variables that I'd set at the beginning, which is a really nice way to kind of go about it. In that way, you kind of keep that uniform color scheme going across all of your apps. I'm just going to open up the Hamburger menu, and I'm going to select on this toggle here. And if I find the on check, so the way I controlled this, so at the moment, as we have it in that blank canvas app that we just made, as we have it, you can see that there is no way that the user from an endpoint would be able to go ahead and change the color of these colors. This is only something that you'll be able to do in Power Apps. But that's where you can bring in controls to allow users to do this. So a good way to do this is by using any list, any amount of controls. You could use a button to do a color switch button. You could use a toggle like I did in the vacation booking app. But I'll just show you how that works. If I go ahead and search for toggle, I can bring in a toggle here. And I can then say that when this is checked, I want to set the var primary color to, we'll go green. And then when we set it to uncheck, I can do set var primary color. And I can set this to blue. So it's going to be red out the box. If I go ahead and test this, this should work. So you can see that it's changed from green to blue, green to blue. And that's how you can change the color of, or the value of your variables. Now you can use this for other things as well, but you notice that the footer here didn't change. And that's because we're using that secondary color. So the other alternative you could do would be to set the value of that that secondary color as well, or you could basically change the footer, the fill value of the footer, to be the primary color with that color fade. So instead of setting it inside the on start of your app, you could actually set this inside the properties of that element. But just for the purpose of this, I'll go ahead and, again, remembering that semicolon, I'm just going to go ahead and do set. And then we can do secondary color to be blue, and then we can do color fade, and then we can do, say, 50%. And again, remembering that one as well. So again, I can copy this. We'll go back to our on-check. We'll do the same for our green, and we'll just change this to green here. Don't like the way that didn't. There you go. So now if we go ahead and test our app, you can see that we've got our 2 shades of green and our 2 shades of blue. So there are other tutorials out there as well that actually show you how you can implement a color picker if you wanted to give your users more variety over what colors they can choose. But obviously for the purpose of mine, this vacation booking app that I did, I just wanted to keep everything on brand with our Collab 365 color scheme. So that kind of covers a lot of the icons and theming surrounding this app. The last thing to talk about with this app is using shapes to kind of, what I'm going to say is bloating out certain areas of your screen. So I just did a simple design here, and I like the idea of having this kind of layered effect of having this footer, this navigation footer kind of overlaying my gallery. Now I could have brought this book button down, made it smaller and kind of fit in the middle, but as I said earlier, I wanted this to be the most eye-catching point for the user. This needed to stand out to them the most. And I did this by raising this. And as you can see, I've got this very light grey rectangle behind it. And you're probably wondering how I did this. And it's actually the most obvious thing. There's actually a circle. There's about 3 circles behind this icon. And then the back one is just using the same colour as the background of this rectangle. And it kind of gives that kind of padding effect around the back of this navigation footer. And again, at the top, just to kind of give it that 3D look, I used a very slim rectangle underneath the header just to kind of give it that 2-tone effect that I was going for with this. So we're going to head on over to our Daily Digest app. Now this is kind of a cool little app which we use to manage our Daily Digest, the articles that you guys see every day. And if I go into the app itself, you can see that it's quite busy. There's quite a lot going on. Now I'm not going to go into how a lot of this is working because a lot of this is managed using Power Automate. But again, some of the design things that you can do to kind of, again, it depends what you want your app to do and how you want it to look. But a cool design thing that I like to do is make all of my profile pictures circular. I find square photos kind of, they look a bit odd. It's kind of off meta, if you like, for what's currently trending in Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Everyone's using these circular profiles. It looks a lot cleaner, it looks a lot more professional. And you can see that I did this by using what's called border radius. And I've set this to 180. And I usually find that usually covers a circular radius for these. But again, it depends on the size of your icon. So if I just return to this one here, if I went with something like 1,000, you can see that this actually goes square because it's trying to create that circle around it with that border radius. I would have to go to something much higher, say 5,000, probably won't even let me go that high, to go and make that circular. I'm just going to go place this back where it was. So yeah, that's a cool little thing that you can do with apps as well. And it's kind of a nice little touch. But yeah, let's have a look what else we can do. So as a developer who's built quite a few apps now in Power Apps, important thing that I want to move on to is allowing your users to see which version of the app that they are running. And this is going to help with reporting bugs and issues within your app. So not everybody is going to have access to the actual editable version of Power Apps. So if something goes wrong in your app, or someone's submitting a form, for example, if they were booking some holiday or they were submitting an article to our Daily Digest, and it didn't appear, it didn't go through, it didn't go into that database. Something they would be wondering is why that hasn't gone in. Now they can report an issue to the developer of the Power App. So, for example, if Mark was booking some holiday, or he was submitting to the Daily Digest, and he was wondering why the Daily Digest article didn't go into the app, because he's used this app to build it, to implement that article. It'd be nice for them to be able to see exactly what version of the app they're running, and this is going to help with debugging and fixing bugs. So you can bring apps into Microsoft Teams as a tab, as an app, and you can actually pin it to a Teams channel as well. Now, one thing that I have noticed is with quite a few things in Microsoft, things can be flaky. They can have issues that crop up every now and again. Now, we had an issue before, and this is the reason why I've started doing this on my apps, where we had an issue where one of our team was submitting an article in the Daily Digest, and it wasn't appearing in our newsletter, and we was wondering why. And that's because during the process of building this app, I hadn't actually implemented a function for one of the buttons. And what actually happened is the app that was being used on Teams hadn't actually updated to the latest version of Power Apps where I'd fixed this. Now, it should do by default, and sometimes it requires a refresh in Teams to be able to do this, but it just allows somebody like Mark or whoever is using the app to actually see what version of the app that they're building. So you can do this by either using text, you can say which version of the app it is. You can also use the app.version command as well, which will allow you to, I think, bring in the app version from Power Apps itself, which I don't like too much because I have a habit of saving and publishing apps just when I want to test something, which isn't ideal for large scale teams where you'd only want to push the final version to them. So it's just one thing to consider, and that's just putting a little tag within your app just to say which version of the app that they're using. So I'm going to go into the app here, and you can see that this probably looks quite different to what you would expect from most apps within Power Apps. So on the right hand side, I have this gallery, and for those that don't know, a gallery is basically a beautified way of showing information from a table or a database. Now, this is picking up things directly from an Excel spreadsheet. The reason we're using Excel for this over SharePoint is because we was using Power Automate Desktop to go and use the web recorder to grab a bunch of metadata from some websites. But more to the point, I did a few little design changes here, which had changed previously because it just made things a lot easier. I did have a separate screen where you'd click on an article, you'd be able to view it, and then decide whether you wanted to approve or reject it for the Daily Digest. And it become a little bit cumbersome when we're putting 20 plus articles in there every day. It'd just be nice to be able to see everything in one place and approve or reject it from there. So again, using that kind of global recognition that green is good, red is bad. We did the same with these icons. So we've got this tick and we've got this cross. And these are basically just updating some information inside our list. Now, this is a really cool way of doing approvals in Power Apps. Now, you can build this in a much more kind of supported way, if you like, using the in-house controls and stuff in Power Apps and Power Automate. But I just thought this was a nice little thing to implement, and this was using the patch feature in Power Apps to basically go ahead and update an item. So just based on two icons, I'm using the patch formula here, which basically goes and grabs our Daily Digest articles list, creates a new row to it when I click the tick button, and then fills it with the information that comes from that Excel spreadsheet, which is this item.title, the excerpt and the link, and it's just basically saying that whichever item this is, it's going to grab the information from that. And then alternatively for the cross button, we have a remove. This just removes it from that table because we didn't want to do anything with it. So that's a nice easy way to do approvals. Now you could do many more complicated things. Now I think there's something going on in the background in Power Automate with the approval here, which basically actually deals with the implementation of putting this into our WordPress site. But again, that'll probably be something I'll maybe do in another live video, because it's quite a cool little thing to be able to go ahead and create a post in WordPress from Microsoft. So one last little thing on this app, which is a nice little thing, is something you guys have probably experienced a lot with, and that is basically showing who is using the app. It's nice to see when you're logged in and you're using the app, you know things are working correctly and you've got the right data because you're accessing not an offline version of your app. Now, this is the kind of first formula that I think I ever learned in Power Apps, which is nice. Nice to kind of revisit. But I seem to do this on all my apps now, which kind of gives that nice look at who is using the app. Now you can use this function called user with open close parentheses, .email, full name or image, and I'm using all three here. So you can see that I'm using the full name, and for the image I'm using the image, and for the email I'm using the email. And again, like I said, it just goes to show who's using the app, and this will work across wherever this app is embedded. If it's in Teams, they will see themselves logged in as their current user, no matter where they're using it. So the final app that I'm going to go to is going to be what we're calling the Social Slammer, which is myself and John Mandeville presented this at Solutions Day back in January. It's an awesome little watch, and there's I think 6 other sessions based on real world solutions that you can actually go and view if you have access to the Solutions Day bundle that we did. And that'll give you a real breakdown as to everything that's really going on in this app, the behind the scenes, the Power Automate desktop, the Power Automate that actually goes into how this works. So just as a quick look at this app, we have this kind of welcome screen, which takes you to this menu. And all this basically does is takes you to that kind of default look that you would see at any social media platform that allows you to post something, whether you want to make a tweet, you want to post to TikTok, to Facebook, you have that new post type of thing, and you can put in your content there. So I'll go into how this works. So as I just showed you at the beginning, we have the splash screen, and it's something that I have started doing more so now with my apps, as we're starting to build a collection of apps that we use at Cloud 365. And that's creating a splash screen, and this basically just shows the user exactly what app that they have clicked on, because when you've got, as you all know, Power Apps can only be accessed at the moment through the Power Apps app within the App Store. There's no native version of your app at the moment. I think I read somewhere that it's something they are thinking of implementing to perhaps get these on the App Store, which would be nice. I don't know how true that is. I don't know if anyone else has actually heard anything more on that. It'd be nice to actually to see that, because I think I'd like to make a nice post about that. But yeah, it just allows people to see exactly which app that they are in, especially when there is multiple apps that they can select. They know they've clicked on the right one. Now, I showed this for a couple of seconds, and it takes you straight into the purpose of this app. Now you can see there's no real navigation here, because there's only one fundamental purpose of this app, and that is to be able to post something to your social media platform. We could have the ability, if we decided to spend months working on it, where we could go ahead and see maybe the feed for our LinkedIn or Twitter or such. But again, for the purpose of this, we just wanted it to be able to post to multiple places at the same time. So, I mean, I know this was built primarily by John, as I was kind of mainly working in the back end, but the purpose of this was that he allowed you to build or post to social platforms using a form across multiple screens. Just bear with me 2 seconds. Just got to find the location of everything else. So yeah, we have some basic kind of text box entry things in this app. But if we go to the second screen, you can see that we have these icons. So we've got our standard kind of drop downs. We can schedule a date. We can put some general text in here. But the thing that we wanted to do was to be able to add some conditioning to the platforms that we wanted to be able to post to. Now, the main thing that you'll know, if you are an avid TikTok user like most of this generation is you can only post videos to TikTok. Now, this obviously posed an issue when, for example, Mark wanted to share a photo of himself drinking a cocktail in Ibiza on his holiday, where he wouldn't be able to actually post that to TikTok. But as it was built, or as we implemented, you would still have the ability to try and post to TikTok if it was an image. And that's where we had to kind of get a bit creative. And we implemented a bit of conditional formatting around the icons here to basically say that if it was an image that was trying to be uploaded, then it would kind of cut out a lot of the unnecessary steps that we didn't want to happen. For example, we didn't want to allow the user to be able to even try to post to TikTok with an image because we knew it would fail and it would cause issues. So what we did here was in these checkboxes, which are very lightly fainted, they're very light, but they are there, is we had some conditional formatting. If I can find out exactly where it is. It's not exactly where I thought it was going to be. But we had some conditional formatting which basically said to this form that if there is an image, then we would make the checkbox disabled. And we did that for TikTok, and we ended up doing it for Instagram as we had a little bit of complexity and issues regarding actually posting to Instagram, which is something that I think John's been working on last week to fix some of the issues in this so we can continue using it. But yeah, that was something that was quite important to have in this app work. You can see that we have this home button at the top here. Now again, we're going back to that global standard. We're using the home icon for, I think a lot of this data has been disabled since we've stopped using it for a while, but we if I can find it, it's down at the bottom here. So yeah, we have this home icon, which is going to take you to a list of all of your posts within this app. So this all gets kind of aggregated within a SharePoint list. Now, as you can see, there is something which kind of goes against what I said earlier, but it's kind of useful to point out, and that's you kind of want all of your navigation for navigating in one place. Now I think we put it down here at the bottom because we wanted the ability to have these icons and we didn't want it to be too cluttered at the top. But essentially you'd want all of your icons that deal with navigation and control in the same area. And it kind of draws people's eye away having an icon on the other side of the screen. But again, we did this, there was a reason we did this, and that was because we didn't want to clutter up that, that top bar at the top. So there's a few more things which can be spoke about with this app. Again, it's more kind of moving away from the design aspect of things, away from the user interface and user experience. But we talk about it more in the Social Slammer Solutions Day video that we did. But yeah, I just want to kind of go back to, if I can just bring this back up. Just bear with me 2 seconds, guys. Yeah, as I was saying, that brings me back to kind of where to begin with these designs. So one thing that you guys have probably heard of, or may not have heard of, is a tool called Adobe Xd. Now, Adobe Xd is a program built by Adobe. It's part of the Creative Suite, and I think there is a free version of it as well. But it allows you to kind of do mock-up designs for your apps in Power Apps and kind of control how you think they, or how you want them to be designed before you kind of get into the nitty-gritty of building these in Power Apps and creating variables and realizing that your variables are wrong. You've got icons in the wrong place. So if you're building an app for somebody else, Adobe XD is a good place to start. It takes probably about an hour's worth of learning. We do have a video on YouTube for that as well. I will find a link for that and make a post about that in the academy at some point today, because I think that's quite important to share. But we basically built a new app which should be available probably by the end of this year, hopefully, we'll see. It's something that we're going to be sharing with you guys on how to build it as well. But the initial design was built in Adobe XD, and it allows you to basically import icons, set up kind of controls that don't actually work as such, but it allows you to create connections between your buttons and your pages and your screens to kind of see the flow of navigation within your app. I don't have an example here at the moment. I don't think I have the correct logon for Adobe XD. But again, I'll try and embed that, because one thing that's good about Adobe XD is you can actually embed your designs and stuff in a web page and actually share them with others so they can interact with them, which is really good when you're pitching an idea to somebody as well. So is there any questions around anything that I've gone over so far? If there's anything that you'd like me to hopefully highlight on, that I may be able to help you with. Just going to have a look at chat just to see if I've missed anything. So I've just realised that I've missed quite a few messages here, so I'm just having a look. So the varcolor idea is good. It saves time over making a screen with all the elements just to use to shut the other screens. I appreciate that, thank you. Yeah, that Microsoft to WordPress thing is something that I think Mark was very excited to get involved in. He kind of built the fundamental part of that, and I think it was using HTTP connector. But yeah, I think there might even be a blog post on our site about that, which I'll try and surface and share inside the Academy, because I think stuff like that's really important to see. I think one of the stats were that 70% of websites on the internet are built using WordPress, and obviously 80% of businesses around the world are using Microsoft. So it's kind of a very good integrating idea to be able to implement. So for the theming example, when you do the toggle in your map, are you toggling one big variable? So yeah, let me just go back to that. And so what I was hoping you would take away from that is that there's no defined way of doing it. There is multiple ways of doing it. It depends on how you want to do it, because there's different ways are going to give you slightly different results. So the way that I did it inside of this vacation booking app here is I used one color, and I just called this var primary blue because that was initially the color of the app. A more ideal name would be var primary color because it's a color that can change. But I essentially just used one color value here, and that was a hex value, which is our blue. And I basically echoed this across the controls. So you can see this header here is using var primary blue. But I actually manipulated the color fade, if I can select it. I did the color fade actually on the elements themselves. And that's because I didn't actually know how I wanted it to look as I was building it. But going forward, it's the first time I've actually implemented this. Going forward, I would kind of have an idea of maybe what sort of controls I wanted to offer for that user, for the end user, whether they wanted to be able to add multiple colors or choose a completely different color to the blue or red that we had. But essentially it's literally doing the color fade with that var primary blue and then a percentage of fade. And I did this for all of the controls as well. If you can see just behind this icon, if I find the fill, again, it's doing exactly the same thing. So it's essentially just copying and pasting these across. And obviously the darker blue behind it is just using the var primary blue. And yeah, just to go back to that toggle as well. The toggle here, this is a comment which I no longer needed. It was something I was testing. I'm essentially just changing the value of the color. So we have that var primary blue, the var primary color, whatever you want to call it. We're just doing the color value, giving it a hex value, just how I did in the example earlier with the green or the red or the blue. And this is basically saying that when it's checked, it's changing the color to this. And when it's unchecked, it's changing the color to this, which is just a different color value. So before I leave you, I'm just going to explain a little bit about this vacation booking app, because it's been quite important to us over the last couple of months. It's been a fair few months in the working. So this is obviously a manipulation of an app out of the box kind of style that we built, almost specifically a guy called Matt Weston, who's an MVP, built, and he's actually demonstrated as part of the 5-day challenge, which is a new challenge that you guys have probably seen on the Academy. If you guys are watching this on social media, I'll post a link to that underneath the video just after the stream ends. But essentially what this is a zooped up version of an app built by Matt Weston. Now, the app is an app built in the Power Platform using SharePoint, Power Apps, Power Automate. We dive into Power Virtual Agents, Planner, Power BI. All of the Power Platform is covered in the challenge, and it kind of takes a beginner through their first steps into building apps and solutions in the Power Platform to a point where they will have a solid vacation booking app that they can use in their own organization. But yeah, the idea of it is to allow users to be able to walk away from that 5-day challenge, not specifically with a vacation booking app, because we appreciate that that isn't an app that everybody needs or wants in their organization. Maybe they already have something that deals with that or manages that. But the idea is it allows you to kind of begin to start thinking out the box when it comes to building solutions and using and kind of pointing your eyes at the Power Platform as a tool to help you achieve things in the Power Platform. Just bear with me 2 seconds. Okay, I'm going to be sticking around for probably the next 15 minutes as well in chat, just to answer any questions if anybody has anything. I'm going to share a few links with you as well to help you point you in the right direction where to go next. Or maybe you're looking at this for the first time and wondering, I want to be able to build these type of Power Apps myself. I want to get to that stage where I can start implementing some of these cool features. So I will share that challenge with you as well. A link to get access to that challenge. It's very, very cool. We've already had, I think the first 6 people have gone through it successfully, which has been nice. But yeah, I will leave you with that for now. And hopefully I'll do another live session soon. And for those that do attend the 5-day challenge, I will see you myself on the 16th. John will be running the 9th of May challenge. But yeah, we'll see you then. Take care.